Katey King was the name given by spiritualists in the 1870s to what they believed to be a materialized spirit. The question of whether the spirit was real or a fraud was a notable public controversy of the mid-1870s. The spirit was said to have first appeared between 1871 and 1874 in séances conducted by Florence Cook in London, and later in 1874 to 1875 in New York in séances held by the mediums Jennie Holmes and her husband Nelson Holmes. Katey King was believed by spiritualists to be the daughter of John King, a spirit control of the 1850s through the 1870s that appeared in many séances involving materialized spirits. A spirit control is a powerful and communicative spirit that organises the appearance of other spirits at a séance. John King claimed to be the spirit of Henry Morgan, the buccaneer. Florence Cook was a teenage girl who started to claim mediumistic abilities in 1870, and in 1871 to 1872 she developed her abilities under the established mediums Frank Hearne and Charles Williams. Hearne was associated with the spirit John King, and Florence became associated with Katey King, stated to be John King's daughter. Hearne was exposed as a fraud in 1875. Katey King developed from appearing as a disembodied face to a fully physical materialization. At Hackney on the 9th of December 1873, lawyer William Volkmann attended a séance held by Florence Cook, during which Katey King materialized and, as was customary, held the hand of the participants. Suspicious of the spirit's similarity with Cook, Volkmann seized the spirit's hand and waist, accusing it of being the medium masquerading as her ghost. The spirit was wrestled from Volkmann's grasp by other participants and returned to a cabinet from which Cook emerged some minutes later. Volkmann published his opinion that the spirit was a masquerade by Cook. Supporters of Miss Cook denounced Volkmann on the grounds that he had broken his agreement to proper etiquette required in the séance, thus negating his credibility as an investigator. Volkmann was associated with another medium, Mrs. Guppy, who might have wished to denigrate her rival. Moreover, it was argued that since spirits borrowed energy and matter from their medium, it was not surprising that Katey King resembled Cook. Despite the defence of their position, Cook and her supporters were hurt by this incident. Newspapers were referring to it as an exposure and sought further support for their position. To this end, they turned to Crookes, who was a prominent and respected scientist. Between 1871 and 1874, Sir William Crookes investigated the preternatural phenomena produced by spiritualist mediums. He described the conditions he imposed on mediums as follows: "It must be at my own house and my own selection of friends and spectators, under my own conditions, and I may do whatever I like as regards apparatus." A 15-year-old Cook, alone in Crookes' house with Crookes' friends and family as witnesses, was said to have materialized the spirit of Katey King, who walked about, talked, allowed herself to be weighed and measured, and even held the family's baby. On one occasion at a joint séance in the Crookes' home in March 1874, Katey King was seen in company with Florence Maple, a spirit materialized by the medium Mary Showers, who was exposed as a fraud shortly after. The sessions were held with the medium secluded in the dark because spiritualists believed that materialization requires very dim surroundings to succeed, though occasionally the spirits materialized in the light and some photographs were taken. As is apparently typical of materialized spirits, Katey's exact height and weight varied, though Katey was always taller than Florence Cook, with a larger face and different hair and skin. According to those present, the two were both visible at the same moments, so that Florence could not have assumed the role of the spirit. The final appearances of Katey King in connection with Florence Cook took place in April and May 1874 at the Cook family home in Hackney. The audiences were invited to sit in a parlour opening onto a bedroom, in which Florence would start her trance. After some time, Katey King would emerge. At some point, the audience would be shown a figure, apparently Florence, lying on the floor of the bedroom with her head covered by a shawl, while Katey King was still visible in the parlour. A number of the witnesses, such as Edward W. Cox, recorded their doubts about the proceedings, while others claimed they had seen the two clearly, such as Crookes and Florence Marriott, who claimed that she had seen Katey naked in Florence's company. Crookes' report, published in 1874, contained his assertion that Florence Cook, as well as the mediums Kate Fox and Daniel Douglas Home, were producing genuine preternatural phenomena. The publication caused an uproar, and its testimony about Katey King was considered the most outrageous and sensational part of the report. After the news of Katey King had spread abroad, the American mediums Jennie and Nelson Holmes also claimed to have materialized her. Robert Dale Owen, the politician and avowed spiritualist, had experienced this materialization and wrote about it in an article for the Atlantic Monthly in January 1875. Just as the article was going to press, however, a woman named Eliza White stepped forward and claimed to have masqueraded as Katey. White's face matched that of Katey King in the photographs sold by the Holmeses and their agents. Both the Atlantic Monthly and Owen admitted in public to being duped. Arthur Conan Doyle maintains that this exposure did more damage to spiritualism than any other exposure of the period. Investigations conducted by leading spiritualist Henry Steele Olcott in 1875 re-established the credibility of the Holmeses in the eyes of many spiritualists. The story, eventually accepted by most spiritualists, was that Eliza White had been hired to pose as Katey King for a photograph to sell to the public. The Holmeses had not wanted to photograph the real Katey King, since bright light would have ruined the materialization. Once involved, Eliza White first extorted money from the Holmeses and then sold the story to the press.
If you like that, then check out our Patreon, where for just $5 a month you get access to exclusive shows like Real Monsters and Playing with Bones with Amy Rose, along with early access to all our minisodes and ad-free access to the Weekend Update and It's Alive! Not convinced yet? Well, head on over now and have 7 days on us. That's a 7-day free trial for all new members. That's It's Alive Pod on Patreon. It's Alive! All the guts and go with none of the guilt. See you on Wednesdays, unless you're on Patreon when you get us all week long.